Hi and welcome, my name's Alexandra from Hedgehog Hollow, and today I'll be showing you how to make your own layered die cuts. Now layered die cuts are very much the fashion, but they're super expensive, so I'm going to show you how to create this card here using the Elizabeth Craft Design Chevron background and how you can layer it to create your own. So let's take a closer look and start the tutorial. First of all, let's take a closer look at the card. So these beautiful new layering dies that are available in so many places are stunning, but really expensive. I have bought a couple of sets and they run to $60 to $80 by the time you've bought all of the plates. Now what I worked out was if you have a reasonably symmetrical die like this one, you can create your own layers, which is what we're going to do today. And then I'm going to show you how to glitter up your sentiment with some top tips for working with glitters as well. Now first of all, you're going to need some card front sizes pieces of cardstock. Now I have used my Neenah Solar White here, and this is Night of Navy and Real Red from Stampin' Up because I had lots of it left over from when I was a demonstrator. And then what I'm using is the Elizabeth Craft Designs double-sided adhesive that I have cut to the same size. So these are 5.5 by 4.25. They have this easy piece on the bottom so that I can just peel it off. You want to leave this Elizabeth Craft Design piece on, and we're going to stick this onto all of our card fronts. Now you do end up with a little bit of excess, not much, around about 1/4 inch all the way around. So you want this to be fairly precise, and you can see it just fits on there. And now you're going to do this to all of your pieces before we die cut them. So I'm going to do the same to my navy, and if you do make a mistake, just pull it very gently and it will be quite forgiving. So there's our navy piece, and here is our white piece. And all the offcuts you get from cutting down your adhesive you'll want to keep because we'll be using those later as well. What I'm going to quickly do is I'm just going to also trim off these excess pieces of adhesive because I don't want to be pulling them off of my die cutter, and they do stick really well. So you want to just trim these up just slightly so that you don't have any of those extra pieces left, and you can then just pull them off of your paper trimmer. If anything gets too stuck, just grab one of your adhesive rubbers and you can get it straight off. And I can tell you I know this because when I was making our sample I had adhesive pieces everywhere. So you can just pull it off like this, and this is another reason I love this particular cutter because it's very forgiving of me and when I make mistakes with some sticky bits. So now you have your 3 pieces. We're going to die cut them using the Chevron background from Elizabeth Craft Designs, and you're going to want to cut each one with your colour facing up and your adhesive on the bottom. Now if you do alternate them, they will not stack right to do your card, so you want to make sure that you cut each of these the same way up. So that's your card facing through the die and your adhesive on the bottom. So when your die comes out of the die cutter, it will look like this, and all you want to do is in each of the 4 corners there is a little hole, and I'm using my Tonic pick here, and that just pops the entire panel out. You'll see that there's all of these little chevrons that come out. Some have holes so you can make them into banners across cards, some are embossed, and some have this lovely stitch detail, and they will really easily pop out. Just pop your finger through or use a die brush. You can also use a toothbrush if you don't have a die brush, they work just as well. And you may want to keep these pieces, or for this project I'm just going to throw them away, but they would make some lovely decorations for other projects or some shaker elements in your shaker cards. And once you've done this, you'll have 3 of these weeded out. This process of removing all the extra pieces is known as weaving when you're working with vinyl and things. And you'll end up with these here. Now you'll also need a card base to work with, and this is just a piece of 8.5 by 11 that I've cut long ways. Neenah Solar White is what I tend to use for all of my card bases. Now on the original I did the blue on top, then the white, then the red. For this one let's switch it up a bit. We'll start with the blue on the bottom, and then we're going to add our red. So the adhesive has these sheets on the back, so I can just peel this off all the way across. and then we can stick them down. This is much easier than adding the adhesive, which is why we did it before we die cut, because the adhesive is then perfect. So let's just pull this around, and then we're going to add this onto our white piece. Let's move that out the way, and we're going to want to offset it. Now you can go up or down, it doesn't matter. For this I'm going to go down slightly, and you'll want to pick a point. So I'm going to start here at the top, and this is probably about 1/8 of an inch. So you want your edges along here to line up, and then you'll see that you have this nice white border, and you'll have this white piece at the top that we'll cut off in a moment. That's absolutely fine. Now we're going to do the same with our white adhesive on the back of this one, and then we're going to stick that onto the blue. So again, I'm just going to peel that off like so, and I'm going to offset it onto the blue. So again, I'm going to line up my top so that it's even, line up my two sides and stick it down. And you can see that just by changing the top to bottom colours, you end up with a completely different look. And this is the great thing about card making. You only have to alter one or two things and you can end up with a complete variety of cards. Now I'm just going to use my die cutter, my trimmer rather. Oh, I'm all stuck. Let's pull that up. And we'll finish this off with our scissors. And I'm cutting along the top of that red piece. I don't particularly want to cut any of that red off. You want a nice sharp pair of scissors. These are Fiskars scissors, and as always, everything will be linked up in all the blog posts. Be sure to check out the description below for a link to the Elizabeth Craft Designs blog, where I've got some more pictures and linked everything up for you. And now we're going to do the same. We're going to stick this down onto our piece of white cardstock. So again, we shall peel off our backing, which is really easy. And we'll go, it doesn't matter whether you go top to bottom, left to right, just peel that off however it comes as naturally. And I like to open up my card pieces before I stick down my layers. Just find that it's easier to work with because it doesn't want to jump up and down, and then you center that onto your card base. So that is our main piece done. Now we need to create our celebrate and our little banner tag. So I'm going to just clear this away, and you'll need another piece of white cardstock. Ooh, there we go. Let's move those to the side. This is a piece of white cardstock that I've stuck adhesive onto either side. You'll need that as well. You'll need your celebrate die, and you'll also need a couple of the offcuts, like so. Now these offcuts here I'm going to stick onto my piece of white, like so, and it doesn't have to be particularly straight or anything else because we're going to just work with them like so. Now when I'm working, I keep the dies that I'm working with in one of these metal bowls, another one of my little tips, and it just sticks in here, and that's just right next to me, so I can pop that in and out so I don't lose my celebrate die. Now you're going to want to cut one of these, one celebrate, on the double-sided adhesive, and you're going to want to cut two on this piece with just the adhesive on one side. And again, you want your white facing up and your adhesive to the bottom. So I'm going to go and cut those out, and I'll come back and then we can work with our glitter. So I've cut everything out that I needed. One thing I wanted to let you know is the best way to cut out your celebrate is to make sure it goes through your die cutting machine long ways. If you put it through this way, it doesn't get the same amount of pressure. So make sure when you put it through, it goes long ways through your die cutter. So I'm going to pop my piece back in there. Now, as ever, things don't always go to plan, and here at Hedgehog Hollow we're quite realistic that not everything is just right. So when I pulled this out, first of all my backing stayed there. Well, there's not much I can do about that, and my celebrate fell in half, but you can rescue it. So I wanted to show you how I did that. So I'm going to first of all mount up my stack so that I get a nice 3D celebrate. So we're going to add this onto one of our previous die cuts. These are just the plain white on one side and sticky on the other. And I'm going to press that down so that it lines up like so. And then we can put our other half in, and it will not make a huge amount of difference. By the time we have glitter on this, no one will know that you made a mistake. Now the one thing I will now need to do is a little bit of weeding, because I couldn't do it when I took it out of its die. So I'm just going to make sure that the E piece comes out of here, and this is my Tonic pick, which is perfect for doing this. And we'll take the piece here out of our B, like that, and make sure it comes out of our R. And again, we'll just pick it out, and finally out of our A here as well. So you just want to make sure those pieces do pop out. It is a nice deep die, so it will cut well, but of course not everything goes to plan, and I think it's important to show you when we make a mistake how we go about fixing it. So we'll just pull that piece out of there. And again, I'm just going to get my tweezers in there to help me. There's lots of tools that we have in our craft room that when you make a mistake, they'll help you fix it. So that'll do for a moment. And when we come to put our glitter on, we can weed it out a little bit more if we need to. Now I'm going to peel the bottom off of this C, like so. And I'm going to put it on top of our third one. So this nice 3 stack will give us a nice 3D sentiment, so it'll look a bit like a chipboard kind of thickness. And the one thing that I'm going to show you to do is it's sometimes hard to make sure that all these layers stick together, and what I use is one of these wallpaper rollers. So just go over it like so, and that makes sure that all of our layers will be nicely stuck together. It's just the right amount of pressure and super easy. So what we're now going to do is we're going to add our glitter. I'm going to use one of my mini glitter trays. Again, if you watch Hedgehog Hollow regularly, you'll see that I use these a lot, but they will all be linked up for you anyway. I'm going to peel off this top piece, which of course is going to come off in 2 pieces because of our little mistake earlier, but that's fine. I'll find another edge over here, and we'll take this piece off. Now we'll just make sure also there's a couple of bits we can see that it's left behind that ECD blue, which is perfect, so it makes it really nice and easy to spot anywhere we need to remove pieces from. And my fingers are now very sticky by the time I finish this. So what I now would do is it's easiest to hold it when you're adding glitter with your tweezers. Now I use these long nose tweezers. Again, it's all linked up for you, and it's something that I use quite regularly. I'm going to open my Silk Microfine glitter, and because we put the red on top, I'm going to use the blue glitter. I'll link up both on the blog post, but just depending which way you want to go. And this is a beautiful silk microfine glitter from Elizabeth Craft. And just going to give it a little tap to remove any excess. If you see you've missed somewhere, you can just dig it back in there and pick up some more. And the great thing with these tweezers is they are long nosed, so they keep out the way as much as possible. But I do like to move them around just to make sure that I've not missed any glitter areas. So I'm going to pop this to the side just for a second, and I'm going to show you how this one works. So this one has a brilliant screw piece on the bottom, and then what I can do is I can then just give it a nice tap to put most of my glitter back into the little pot it comes in. Now some like this will get left behind, and getting it back in can sometimes be quite tricky. So my top tip here is to use your powder tool that you use when you are heat embossing. Because it's anti-static, it will help you get most of it back in there, and it's got that lovely brush on the end if you use the same EK Success one that I use, and that will help you get most of your glitter back in there. Now there'll always be some left behind, and when I'm not doing a video I will spend longer doing it. This you can just brush off on a scrap piece of paper or your jeans like I did there, and you get rid of that. Now, anything that's left behind, whether it's in your tray, or you can see my table is quite sparkly at the moment, and I might not want that to transfer to my next project. I use the Swiffer Sweeper Dries. Again, I get them on my Amazon pantry order. I cut them in half. This is the one I was using earlier for my sample, and you just go over your work surface. And because they are clingy, I can get into my tray, into all those little nooks and crannies. and everything stays on there. It won't fall off, it doesn't transfer, and if you cut them in half, they last a nice long time. So I can get that out there. We can clean up our work surface, and then we can just pop this back on the bottom. So let's assemble our final card, because that is the fun bit. Now I've cut a 1-inch strip of just some glitter cardstock, and I've cut a pennant in the bottom. You make a snip down the middle and then one either side to meet up. We're going to stick our Celebrate on there, so I'm going to peel the backing off of this Celebrate. And it might look like there's lots of glitter on there, but that will all come off because it's just static and stuck. And I'm going to use my trusty tweezers to help me add it on. So stick it where you want it to go. Everything at the minute seems to be sticking to me, but you can see there, and then we can make sure it's nice and straight with the tweezers. We can move it around like so. Again, I'm going to take my roller and I'm going to stick it down like so. Now I'm going to add some foam tape. I have a huge roll of foam tape that probably won't even fit under the camera, so I'm going to snip it to the side and bring a piece on. Fantastic value to get the big rolls, and then we can stick it on our card wherever we'd like to see it. But these are perfect for the 4th of July, whether you want to do your blue on the bottom or on the top, depending on who your recipient is, and then you can use the appropriate coloured glitter as well. So thanks for joining us here at Elizabeth Craft Designs. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and to Hedgehog Hollow's channel, and we'll see you again soon for some more Sunday stamping. See you again soon. Happy stamping. Bye.